Can you just explain for everyone, why is it you're standing down as leader?
Well, look, I'm the leader of the parliamentary group. We're not in Westminster, we're in Brussels and Strasbourg. That's a full-time job. I'm busy right at the moment engaged helping the Irish No campaign. I've also been the leader of the domestic party for the last 3 years, and frankly, doing both of those jobs is too much for any one person. The party is far too big. We're about to embark upon a general election campaign in which we're going to have over 500 candidates, and because of the way UKIP's structured, the domestic leader of the party has got to plan, organise, lead and run that domestic general election campaign, and I'm not going to take that burden on because, frankly, it's too much. And anyway, I'm going to be busy in Buckingham taking on John Bercow.
Yes, and the reason you're taking on John Bercow is what? Is it because it's, if you like, an easier seat to fight? Because the convention is that you leave the Speaker alone, you don't stand against him. Why are you breaking that convention?
Yeah. Well, look, that convention, as far as I'm concerned, should be thrown out of the window because John Bercow and his like have given away the ability of our Parliament to actually make the laws by which we live. You know, whether it's the light bulbs we put in our living rooms, whether it's how we regulate the City of London, all of these things have been transferred across from Westminster to Brussels, and Mr Bercow, as Speaker of the House of Commons, should be fighting like a lion for the House of Commons to get that power back. Instead, he seems to support it. So I'm hoping that Buckingham will become a very symbolic fight in that we're saying, look, in this election, let's talk about how we're governed, by whom we're governed, and what sort of politicians we really want.
Well, you'll be aware that people will want to ask you lots of questions. I assume that effectively what you're saying, you're standing as the sort of squeaky clean candidate. That John Bercow has been linked to the expenses scandal, had to make a payment back, £6,500. Then you effectively are saying, vote for me because I'm completely different. And yet, just recently, you said that you spent £2 million since, what, 1999, non-salary expenses and allowances. How do you account for £2 million?
No, hang on. I have had the same expenses as every other British MEP, Glenys Kinnock and all the rest of it since 1999. I gave an estimate of £2 million. In fact, with all the allowances that we get for employing staff and offices, it's more than that. But I get the same as everybody else. And look, what we're campaigning for is for MEPs to get no money at all.
Can I just say...
I would do myself out of that job, given the opportunity.
Can I just say, Mr Farage, you're already sounding like some of the MPs did in the midst of that scandal, because they were saying, I only did the same as everyone else did. And now when people are wanting to scrutinise your finances, you're saying, well, I just get the same as all the other MEPs get.
No, what they said is I have acted within the rules on their expenses claim. I'm not talking about expenses, I'm talking about allowances, the same allowances that are given to absolutely everybody. And look, it just shows how out of touch the House of Commons has become, our MPs have become. The very fact they could elect John Bercow as Speaker shows they just don't get it.
Well, would you like to... I mean, can you make a pledge for us now, then, given the scrutiny you'll be under, that £2 million figure, and I think you said that as a sort of guesstimate of what you might have spent, are the details of those expenses and allowances going to be up for us to have a look through in the same way that MPs have been, so that they can be scrutinised and people can ask you questions about flights, train travel, journeys, freebies you may have taken during that time, and subject you to the same kind of scrutiny?
Yeah, and I think that's right, that MEPs should be, and of course we'll abide by that. Most of the money has been used in the employment of staff. Of that, there is absolutely no question.
And you will be making all those figures from 10 years ago available for everyone to have a look at?
I'm not going to make any figures from 10 years ago available unless the European Parliament gives me those figures. I don't even touch this money. I don't see this money. It goes straight to an accountant and it's paid to people. Look, this is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a UK general election, not talking about a European election. We've just been through that process. I know that the Labour, Lib Dem and Conservative parties will not want to discuss Europe at all in the general election. I hope that by taking on John Bercow in Buckingham that we can have that debate.
Nigel Farage, thank you very much for your time this morning.